It was a cold, moonless night when Mia decided to take the shortcut home through the woods. The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the faint rustle of leaves. She clutched her phone tightly, its flashlight barely piercing the dense darkness ahead. Halfway through the trail, Mia's footfalls slowed. She could have sworn she heard something. A faint whisper, almost like her name being called. She stopped, her breath catching in her throat, and strained to listen. Silence. Just the wind, she told herself, shaking her head and pressing on. But the whispers returned, louder this time, unmistakable. Mia! Her name, drawn out in a raspy voice. She spun around, shining her light wildly among the trees. "Who's there?" she called, her voice trembling. No answer. The air grew colder, and the feeling of being watched crept over her. Mia quickened her pace, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Then, ahead on the path, her light caught something. A figure stood motionless, shrouded in shadows. It was tall, unnaturally so, with limbs that seemed too long and a face that was wrong. Its hollow eyes glowed faintly, and its mouth stretched into an eerie grin. Mia froze, her legs refusing to move. The figure tilted its head as if studying her before taking a slow, deliberate step forward. She stumbled backward, nearly dropping her phone. "Stay away!" she shouted, but her voice barely carried over the pounding of her heart. The figure's grin widened as it took another step. Mia turned and ran, the flashlight bouncing erratically in her hand. The whispers grew louder, surrounding her, overlapping voices that made no sense. Branches clawed at her clothes and skin as she sprinted, desperate to escape. She glanced over her shoulder, and the figure was closer, gliding through the trees as if it didn't need to touch the ground. Its glowing eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment she felt an overwhelming urge to stop, to give in. But she shook it off, forcing herself to keep running. Finally, the edge of the woods came into view. Relief surged through her as she burst out onto the street, the safety of the neighborhood lights washing over her. She turned back, expecting to see the figure emerging from the trees. But there was nothing, just the dark, empty woods. Mia's breathing slowed, and she allowed herself to believe she was safe, until she heard it again, right behind her. "Mia!" She spun around, but there was no one there. The street was empty. Her phone buzzed in her hand, startling her. She looked down at the screen. A new message. It was from an unknown number. "You can't run forever.